Alright, second section of stream, once again, being rebroadcast from Amara2_MK to the main 2_MK channel with full permission. Apparently, now even receiving CFN invites in that way also drops stream, so it's just one of those things you have to deal with.
Whew. Well, so it goes. Let's get some testing done.
Well, I wouldn't say it's bad because it does separate us out into pretty neat sections of the stream relative to what I wanted to test. So the first things we're looking at are just basic play. Obviously, I'm not a big body player. I don't have a lot of ideas for this directly other than using my incredible footsie skills to hit you with command grabs. That is not really what we want to be doing here. So, I should have known that would be yellow. It is the yellowest of yellows at that. Literally the yellowest of yellows. I don't think you can redefine yellow to be any more yellow than that.
It's great. She has like 9 other colors of this, but this is the best one. Okay, so my first question is, can he actually parry this? Yes,
He seems to be able to parry that. So despite all claims to the contrary, well, let's see what he does with the multi-hit one. Multi-hit. Well, how many hits is that supposed to be?
3.
Which is interesting because now it seems as if he can't. I can't say.
I think you probably need to hit it even earlier somehow.
Nope. He just seems to have almost lost the ability somewhere. Maybe he gets to do it once per round.
That would be very strange, even by any standards, really.
But let's give it a shot, see what you get. Heavy clap. No, it's definitely not that the clap is failing. It seems that on the last frame of it he can do it. That appears to be the case. I don't know how anyone could... Is possibly a bug? Because he clearly gets hit by the clap, and he clearly counters the clap, but he only seems to be able to do it.
Right, and there you parried the first hit, but you got hit by the second one, so it's a one hit.
Right, but if you throw out the clap... Or maybe it's that the parry itself is extremely short. Not reaching. Well...
Wait a second.
Hmm?
So if I'm in range for you to... Maybe it has to do with where I am. Like, if I'm too far away for you to hit me...
Oh, that's possible too, but I seem to remember him parrying Ryu rather regardless.
Oh, there it is. Can you jump over them? I hope so.
Sure, sure.
It looks a little difficult, more than usual, but...
I wouldn't say that anyone should start trying to do this, basically. What we can test with Ed when the next comes around.
I would guess that with Ed it's actually a little more important. Because he can use those as meaties and parts of combos and block strings and stuff. And if you do something like... If I cancel into clap, can you stop it?
No,
Like
because if you're canceling, I can't do anything.
Oh, I see.
So obviously it wouldn't work. Either way, we are not going to go into that too much more. Okay. So let's see if we can get a different focus going.
Main thing I have is, you know...
That is crush counterable, but I'm not sure if it's because I let go. So trying
really
early.
far.
Nope, this is a crush counterable state for some reason. Clearly. Alright, let's get some V-trigger going, and you try now.
Do you have
Well,
armor from the moment you put yourself down?
we're not sure if it's actually from the moment, but it's definitely frame 3 at worst. So you do have to deal with this. This, of course, is not really relevant to the bot, so... Alright, you can definitely do that. Very well then. So, let's get some Lara meaties going on, but when... We'll do that a little later when I actually have V-trigger for some other reason.
Okay. What is his throw range?
Apparently, I was correct. If I begin Nitro Charge and switch to holding V skill, he will continue in the Nitro Charge state. But I did a trick with this before, so I only need to be holding one kick. But this wasn't working the way I wanted it to before, so I'm very confused by it now.
But is that just flatly punishable?
That is something I could probably work out relative to the bot a bit more. That is probably punishable, yes. With this many mix-ups, it wouldn't be fair if the main one was... Also, you can note that if you space it correctly, you can't really punish it purely because he's too far out.
Right, and the other thing is, it's a crush counter state, but if I get it wrong...
Then you get armored, yes.
Well... Oh, now you've got V-trigger, so let's see.
Okay.
You should go into V-trigger. Alright, so let's see.
Am I quick rising or back rolling?
Go for quick rise.
Okay. No sign of it. One more? Nope. He actually can't do that on that timing. Even if I was reversing it, it would probably still not work. So we're gonna switch and you dropped back and we'll see what we get out of information from Nakali or Alex.
The wolf is telling us that he cannot parry projectiles and that it is because he is close to Laura's hurt box. But I'm not really...
Interesting.
Cause that's the theory that I had going, right? But I can't tell because he's definitely absorbing the projectile, right? Like it's getting parried.
We can test it on a different character, so when Ed comes around, we'll know it's that time.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, we proceed onward. And that piece of information about him not needing to hold any specific kick in order to do it is useful because I can use that to delay Nitro Charge movement in a different way altogether. However, it does mean that starting an input with his V skill doesn't actually work because he won't come out of the Nitro Charge to do the V skill. And I'm going to have to come up with something else for that sort of recording.
Huh. I am getting reports that there is no limit to EX Giant Flip, the one where he just keeps smashing into the ground.
I'm pretty sure there is none.
100 times in a row, nothing.
I don't see there's any reason to even test that though, because while it is interesting to get up, it's not something I really need a bot to do. So let's see what else. Now, from the Alex side, there's not a whole lot that Alex does that you care here, except the fact that you can't use most of his normals against it in the simple sense. However, apparently if you mistime the parry, you end up in a worse situation. And that's presumably what you'd want to be doing. But this is the answer as far as I can tell. If you do armor through pretty much anything, your basic goal should either be hitting parry because USP, based on what you see them do. Your goal should be Nitro Charge forward, and if you see them go for a big move, you should try to throw them. And if you see them go for a poke, you do that in order to make sure that you catch whatever comes afterwards.
Right, so it becomes they can hit you out of the throw versus you can parry the hit out of the throw that they're about to try.
Yeah.
Or you can go into giant flip to catch the jump if they do
Well,
that.
I'm not sure what that move is actually called, but that one we probably shouldn't call giant flip because it's super confusing. But we'll just go with overhead.
Yeah,
let's go with the overhead
That's
now.
good.
But most people should be able to deal with that, I think. If you hit mash jab while we're doing this, is the better question. Interesting, that he seems to get another hit of armor for some reason. He does get another hit of armor. I don't remember this being mentioned.
So the overhead is double kick into kick again, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is apparently called avalanche press.
Well, it's useful in that it apparently gives him tons of armor.
Huh.
But does not have armor against airborne hit. No, it does! That is terrifying.
Ooh, so if you perfect time your anti-air, you might be able to catch him out of it. But
until he is done flipping, he still has armor.
That is really scary.
And that is probably going to be one of the things that is most important for the bot to do. So I'm actually going to leave it the way it is, where it does the overhead basically too often.
Oh, I see. The half circle back punch is actually legitimately called giant flip.
Yes, that's what I meant.
That is...
It's also relatively stoppable, so it's not as if it's a big deal.
How stoppable is it if he cancels into it?
Here's the question, how do you get in on it?
Like that, apparently. I'm
not absolutely sure that is... I'm not absolutely sure that's going to work all the time. You'd have to be able to time it perfectly.
A projectile... I mean, I can see how a projectile character would, and I can see how Alex specifically does, but if you're,
Now he ends up passing through, which is also weird.
I guess if you're Kami or some Shoto, you would end up doing Air Tatsu, but...
So in terms of this, I now need to give him something he can do that at the beginning of an input that specifically causes him to start the Nitro Charge enough to do a move. Because if you have Nitro Charge held and hit a button at the beginning of the input, it doesn't do anything. This isn't too difficult to modify. In fact, it probably makes a lot of the stuff I was trying to do easier. But it definitely means that it's going to be harder to get the Abigail punch extension. But apparently the knockdown is not different, so it really doesn't matter if he has the extended Abigail punches or not.
Does he have the shallowest jump arc in the game? I think he does.
Okay, so that's interesting. I have to actually be holding Nitro Charge.
Yeah.
To do this, which means that I can't really change that input now because it seems like it's just happened randomly. If I suppose if I do it super fast, I might have a way. No. I'm going to have to figure out and deconstruct how I even got this to happen, because technically it shouldn't be possible, given the inputs I was using. So that's on my list of things to deconstruct. And we'll need to see whether or not the distance he goes with the overhead matters depending on which kick he presses. It doesn't look that way, so I don't have to care which kick he's hitting. Command grab is going to be command grab, no concerns there. However, his EX command grab might be something worth trying to put in, because it does have a follow-up.
Normal command grab?
No, he doesn't get any. He gets no combos off that, which is why I'm concerned about whether or not I can get the EX command grab into something. And therefore I need to know which button to use to do it. So it's probably forward heavy punch.
Heavy punch. Right, either forward or crouching heavy punch, I think.
No to do. His jumping medium kick is actually extremely slow.
Does he even have a cross-up? There you go.
Oh, the Abigail punch hits at different heights. Why? So the heavy Abigail punch is not what I wanted. Noting that for future as well, I'll fix that as part of it. That means that the V-trigger cancel that I was using will get removed from that recording, and probably should have been to begin with. Also, I'm not even sure that combos properly, which I'm now concerned about because it looked like it did before. There's really no reason why I should be failing such a cancel, unless it's special in some way. Okay, let's see, wait. That move is 5 hits on its own, 6 hits comboed with light. Don't want to stun Alex in this case, and I've already forgotten. Oh no, I won the last match, so let's proceed with beating up on Abigail for a little bit. And seeing what you can use to get off it. For example, does Alex suddenly manage to have a cross-up? I doubt this. Well, it's not that he never had one, but it does actually seem like it might be more effective in that it's a little bit easier to deal with on this character. That is probably not the thing we want to hit in the air. That one's fairly good. So
I think jump back, if that was heavy kick, jump back heavy kick is probably pretty good.
I was specifically looking at the heavy punch. I can't think of a real strong use for it, so I doubt that I'm going to be putting that as the beginning hit of anything. But he's got a decent medium kick. The light kick is pretty useless from the looks of it. The medium punch is actually epic because it doesn't wait until it extends before it has a hitbox. So, that's probably useful for a starter of something. And based on that, we get to see what Alex says to Abigail, actually. Although we really should request that Capcom actually put those on a background or something so all of us can read them. Alright then, so I'm doing 2 more tests with the medium Abigail punch before we begin. Also 5 hits.
Are you mashing it?
No, I'm specifically not mashing it to make sure I can do this. But apparently, that cancel does not work without it being the light punch version and probably the X. The EX obviously works fine. The light punch version also works. Medium and heavy do not appear to have that purpose. And therefore I don't even know what this is for. Probably for when I've actually gotten the wall bounce.
Yeah, I think that's, let me see, I've got something here.
Alright, so I'm going to start with some parry practice, and you can begin hitting in various ways. The wolf.
It seems to be when either you get a wall bounce or after you land EX Giant Flip.
Interesting.
Because if you land EX Giant Flip, the opponent goes straight up in the air, and so that's the only Abigail punch that'll catch it.
Okay. Makes sense. And for everyone who said that this character seemed big and dumb, he doesn't seem like a dumb guy to me. He might be more singularly focused on the quote-unquote jock side, depending on how you look at it, but he definitely doesn't strike me as a dumb character. He doesn't even behave as if he is a dumb character. He's just huge and knows it and throws his weight around, because why not? So we're going with
he's not
attempts of powering stomp. Even Chang is relatively intelligent, so it's not... As far as I remember, Chang is actually just mostly pretending.
The parry itself doesn't actually do much damage. I wonder what you can get after it.
The idea is that you should be able to get, I believe, jabs, but I don't remember much beyond jabs. Yeah. Because there's no way to make the parry counter hit either, so there's either a jab or a base mix-up. But he's a pressure style character, so you can do some other stuff.
Yeah. Where are his target combos? Oh, that's... Does his double crouching jab go into something? Because I remember one of his target combos goes into either Abigail Punch or something else.
Nope, don't think so. No,
it's
definitely not a dumb guy. Actually, you can do the Abigail Punch off that, so it's not completely useless.
How many hits of... Okay.
Awesome character. He might in fact be the best character. And honestly, this default costume, this particular color of his default costume is growing on me really fast.
It's looking like his V-trigger is just a flat damage boost on everything he does. So basically the same as Laura's, that type of...
Alright. So let's see some ed and figure out what we can do about these quote-unquote projectiles. You see, what this means, in the weirdest possible way, is that he does have an answer in the Fang matchup. If it works by him being close enough, it technically will mean that he can do certain things. He might even be able to go through Ryobenda this way.
Because my guess is he does the EX run to get 2 hits of armor through the Nishikyu, then goes for the parry through the Ryobenda and hits, or uses the overhead and just either outright dodges it or gets armor out of the fireball. So I'm guessing it's not actually that bad for Abigail, and it's just the tools are really unorthodox because no character has that much armor yet.
Well, I would say it's more that it's slightly unclear in the explanation, but I'm sure that We'll have explanations and show-offs from everyone about what he's capable of, and if not, I guess we'll just be the ones to provide them. So, give me a slow one. Go
I
again.
don't even know if he has variations.
Yeah, you don't. I'm sorry, but that is absolutely
That is
stuffing.
absolutely parrying a projectile.
He's just that he has to wait until it
Logan?
literally hits him. So, this is either unintended
Are
behavior
you taking
or...
damage?
I don't think
You're
he
not
even
taking-
is. No, he doesn't
You're
take any
not
damage
taking
either.
damage.
It's flatly parrying the projectile.
Wait a second. Okay. Give me a little bit to get EX meter.
Okay.
Okay, let's try the EX.
Wait, what am I doing to the EX
Not
though?
parry, deflect the EX
Okay.
fireball. Oh, come on.
Remember, it's quite fast, so... No, it works
No,
as
you
normal. So he does actually take one hit off it, which is a big deal still. Alright. Now, it's hard to do, relatively, but I don't know what they meant about this whole can't parry projectiles thing. It's just absolutely working. And
Oh,
it
and
is
I
even...
can't dash in after it.
That is really strong. So, yes, I definitely need to care more about him having this in the bot and need to improve and increase the amount of time the bot has for it. Now, here's the other question. This is much harder. What happens when he parries just the spark? Because... Okay,
I can't
that's...
do the follow-up.
Alright, that's what I was more so interested in. So, we can count it as probably Abigail just stops you from doing anything whatsoever after he hits you, but the whole cannot parry projectiles thing, either they're patching that out, or it was misrepresented from the beginning.
Right, so I can do that.
Actually, the reason I think you can do that is more to do with the range you're at, because I think the parry does cancel into one thing. But even if it doesn't, yeah, you see, you'd have to have trust in that, and you'd have to have trust in something else too. Go back there and throw it about to the same pace you were doing before.
That looks so ridiculous. Oh my god.
We don't
I
have
should
to
not
worry
be able
about
to throw Abigail.
We don't have to worry about like things like that. So for now, right, there's the problem. But as we were noting
But you could have
before,
gone for overhead.
I could have gone for overhead. I probably could have gone for parry. So we're gonna try to get a little more information since we're probably fighting with Ed a little bit longer regardless. What else does Ed have that Abigail probably should have trouble stopping? And that we need to check whether or not he really does. Raw Psycho Flicker is going to be super hard for me to time the parry for, but we're going to have to try.
Raw Cycle Flicker's hard, but I'm gonna do it.
Okay. I don't think that's
Sorry.
working out in Ed's favor at all. No, that is flatly not working. This is almost a normal. As far as I'm concerned, this is almost a normal. So, what else do we know about Ed's pressure? For example, I believe stand medium is +3 and 6 frames.
So, I wonder if you can punish this. So I know that at max range, this into Psycho Upper whiffs, but can you parry it?
Alright. Apparently it doesn't even... It whiffs so far that it doesn't even matter. But, I think if I'm blocking that and you go into it, don't be out of range, just do it normally. And one more. Actually, that does not work, interestingly. So there is a range at which you can parry it, but if you are doing the combo normally, even if I block it, the parry doesn't work somehow. Presumably because of the spacing that Ed uses. Because I did get the reversal timing on it, and I know that it does not matter that much. However, maybe someone will figure out to do that with better execution on this sort of thing than I have. But we know that that is safe for him to do because it won't matter. So now the next obvious thing is V-skill. Capture state, standard, doesn't do anything. And should continue to be that. So let's give a Psycho Knuckle. Interestingly, that is one of those parries. I'm familiar with the parry timing for such things where you don't really have the time in the first place. But, as you can see, Ed doesn't actually get hit. He goes through, or he gets hit in a strange way that Abigail can't do anything with.
Wait a second. Okay, wait. So if I do it from real close, I get
You
hit.
still go.
If I do it from close to max distance,
You don't get
I
hit at
can't
all.
get...
You don't get any follow-ups, but the point is that Ed doesn't corner himself, he doesn't take stray damage, nothing. Alright, so let's see if I can get a certain thing done here. So you can probably let me win this round. Can I do that much damage in that time? Probably not. But on the other hand, this is Abigail, we never know. No. But I don't think there was anything else we specifically needed to test with Ed. And we're around the time where I can probably take the information I have and do some more work. But it's time for at least Nikali to get some input here.
I am seriously impressed. Am I right that Abigail is the first character that can start a crush counter combo and whose second hit is a jump in? Not in the corner, just mid screen.
I don't think that's actually true. Because, well, crush counter?
Crush counter,
in that he has the
cancel,
juggle
jump in,
and the jump in hit. I'm pretty sure someone else can do that.
Hits.
I'm pretty sure someone else can do that. But again, it's not really that meaningful either way. Because it wouldn't lead to anything beyond regular people damage doing some other thing. It's just specific to him, and he kind of need to do it. Alright, so in terms of Nikali stuff, Nikali isn't a character that has a lot of truly unconventional things that you have to deal with. He doesn't have a lot of stuff that pushes him through you or things of that nature, but he does have the ground pound, the seismo, the... what is that called? Exactly? Sacrificial altar? Something like that. We definitely know that parrying that probably doesn't give Abigail anything, but we can probably armor it. And the question is, what does that mean? That's obvious too. So let's get some seismo. Because that's not going to work.
His V-scale, his seismo is called Culminated Power. Sacrificial Archer is a target combo.
Aha. So
into the seismo.
We know this much. Because Nikali has so few multi-hit moves, he really can't stop that. Which is kind of important for this matchup. I mean, when you think about what he has as options, Nikali has basically no way to stop that. The question is, if he does Rising Light at the last moment versus the overhead, does he win?
Actually, strange idea. EX Disc Guidance.
Well, EX Disc Guidance obviously is possible, but I wouldn't think that you'd care. That's one good way of dealing with it. In fact, it seems that for Nikali, you can do the jab into Rising Light fast enough to deal with the armor. Which is not useful for any bot information, but still something. Yeah, that is quick enough because it cancels out of the jab that he doesn't have any problem with it. So we can assume that characters who cancel out of their jabs can stop the armor on the run, even in the case of the overhead. And that is useful as a thing to put as part of a bot. But beyond that, you're not going to get much to stop him, which is why it would become important. And I don't think this has much to do with the invincibility of the move. That works well too. He has so much health though. The problem with that is that trying to solve the situation this way is not going to help either. Also, I'm totally letting Nikali win just to see him lift Abigail at the end. Interestingly, that does not combo, so you have to be ready to do something after you confirm one of the stomps. Looks like it. I think that should probably work all the time. In order for that to not work, this has to count as a faster throw. But it's fairly easy to do that on reactions, so I don't expect that to come up much. I say that as if he's not literally tossing him around this way now, but at least in this case, it's a whole drag sort of thing, and it looks like he could reasonably hold him overhead. All yours. Because we must see some win quotes and animations and so on. No, actually, that looks relatively sensible. The fact that he does obscure Nikali completely makes it look correct to me. So yes, I am completely under this huge guy, but that's okay.
Round one. Fight.
So what else have we got? We know that the back heavy punch has really no meaning for most things. The question is, how useful or meaningful is that? And how useful or meaningful is that?
Forward heavy punch can combo into come on, where did I put that? Forward heavy punch, anti-air can combo into EX giant flip into some Abigail punch, I believe heavy.
I see. That's useful sounding. But also hard to think about in terms of, since I don't play this style of character. So I'm not too worried about that right now. But still jump. Aha. I see. Makes sense. Relatively. So he does fit the playstyle I expected him to have. And the tricky mix-ups are definitely going to come out of the Nitro Charge. The good thing being making sure that you understand the parries and what you get off of parries. If you parry a jump in, I think you get something good, so I'll probably consider that as a more serious thing. But I think it's forward that you're supposed to use for it, and it has to be extremely high parry.
Maybe back heavy punch actually?
We'll see. No, I'm kind of mashing that,
No.
so it's unlikely that that's the one.
Abigail punch?
High Abigail punch? Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Possibly also. Oh, yeah, that just works. I wonder what the OK is on that.
I suppose that's probably what it's for. And it probably works with ES as well. Actually, it does not. So it appears that that is
Oh,
only
because
for
EX
that.
hits mid.
It might still
I
have a
see.
juggle or two, but it looks like the main idea is that he, rather than try to do anything specific, that you just anti-air with that. So it may make more sense for me to try to get the Abigail punches in the way I was planning before, which is to plink the crouch medium punch combo and then have him do certain things. But I can't see any way for that to work, so maybe I'll just give him 2 separate Abigail punch inputs. Or more than that, because he could use them.
Oh man, his anti-air jab. That jab goes so far.
Yeah, and I need to get him to hit jabs a lot as a result. Wait, does his standing jab go into Abigail punch as well? Yes, it does. So from the looks of it, we're going to be able to get a fair amount of changes done to the concept I had for the bot originally. So as always, thank you to the team for helping me out with some basic checks on stuff, and I'll basically be spending the rest of this stream doing modifications on the bot. So I'll be heading out of this lounge now.
Don't know. Normally that would be a silly question, but Abigail might be able to. You know, I wonder if they somehow mess with the song random number generator when a new character comes out, because it seems that as soon as I buy Abigail, I'm getting Abigail's theme almost every time.
Alright, back in. We got some Abigail theme going as well. So if we review what we have now, and the difference between what we have now and what our big aim is, we should be able to make some fairly quick modifications to the bot, and even if I don't finish them all, anyone watching the stream would be able to figure out what to do with it. So we've got one that starts off with a nitro charge, and there's no specific reason for this input, it was just the easiest thing we had at the time, and it helps with having V reversals. So, let's see if we have something better for this if we try for something that is more likely to cause the parry to happen in the right timing. And to also just see if we can get the multi-hit Abigail punch in there without too much stress. Now, we know that if we do a forward or backward dash, it will help. He's more of a back dash character than a forward dash character, but you'll note that his forward dash is actually quite good distance-wise. Still, we must remember that the aim of the bot is to cause the person to attempt to cross him up. And people who are attempting to cross up try to move into the cross up position first, and therefore probably we want a forward dash into the skills, and most likely... Alright, let's give him forward dash, V skill, Abigail punch. I think I actually want the dash to finish, so I'm going to hide the throw in it instead. Because he does need a regular throw somewhere, so I suppose this would be the place to put it. And that gives me it without the punch. Do I want that? Doesn't seem to do anything much. A bit too loopy, so let's go for... hoping it works the other way. But for now I'm actually going to leave that, because we know that I want the heavy punch at the end of it, but I don't actually have to put it there for this to work. So let me interrupt him a bit, see if I can get a throw, maybe a dash, anything else whatsoever. This is a relatively easy input that she should probably be allowed to have. And maybe I could put a nitro charge at the end of this instead, but I don't see the usefulness of cancelling this into nitro charge in most situations, so it would really come down to whether or not he got anything out of it, or if you did the wrong thing. So I think he's better off with this, and have this be something that just lets a nitro charge start. And let's look through some other stuff with the concepts we have now. So this one is definitely supposed to be this way, but it changes whether or not he holds it, so I have to consider that as well. So what are we looking for here? This is approximately the same thing he had before, but now we're looking for the jabs in themselves. So we're turning on 1 and 2 to see if the interaction helps at all. It doesn't look that way because the V skill is too early into this one for it to end up being useful. So we can also get rid of this recording per se and replace it with something a little bit more useful, especially since his crouching jabs do a particular thing. So what we're going to do now is do a sweep and hide in the sweep. Do I want sweep? No, I don't want sweep. I think this is the moment when I want the forward heavy punch. Or just a heavy punch. What exactly is your straight heavy punch, Abigail? Alright, that's as expected. So we're going to go with just the heavy punch. Or perhaps just the... I almost have a way to make this work now. If I hit triple punch instead, and end a different one with a certain thing, I can possibly get him to do the Abigail punch, but it's going to get a little iffy. So, let's try for just forward heavy punch, or forward triple punch, and see what we get from there, or just triple punch. Triple punch, crouching V skill, and a bunch of low jabs, and then another styling. I think that came out the way I didn't want it to. Yes, it was a little too fast. Let's go with one more, because it should hide, but it's hard to hide it all. That might work, but it looks like I got a heavy punch on the end, which I probably don't want. That's totally not the thing. That looks like it has at least a tiny chance of being what I want. Although that looked altogether too much like a kick. I was probably holding too many punches, and I held them too long. But this is why I probably need to set the triple punch button here. And for those recording your own bots, it's usually easiest to set your heavy punch button temporarily to be your triple punch button, which allows you to do what you normally do without too much stress. Yeah, okay. That'll work out. That's not crouching heavy punch or crouching triple punch, but I don't think I want the crouching one per se. Did I get the crouching V skill? It appears I did, so I'm going to be satisfied with that for now. And now these have become the ones that don't go into nitro charges. But has some extra stuff on it. And those won't combo into anything unless the triple punch actually connects after there. Question is whether or not it was fast enough to begin with, but it doesn't look it. Let's just try 2 by itself and see if I get anything more expected. There we go. So it is actually not wrong. So let's change our sum buttons back, or at least come up with the next thing. But for now, let's restore the buttons. So, we've now got closer to where we wanted to go, but in doing so, we lost one of our nitro charges and our giant flip. So we have to figure out where those should be put back, and therefore we're going to go through the others. I think the final decision was that this is good mostly as is. It could be better with a specific input, but not likely to come up. So it probably can't be put in there. Which means we have to worry more about getting nitro charge out of the last 2. And this one is the one that has some good nitro charge in there. The problem with this one is that it needed to be fixed in a different way altogether. It doesn't actually combo with the proper Abigail punches, and it doesn't have the V-trigger stuff in it. So, we're going to have to basically tweak this just a little bit. The difficulty with that is getting the nitro charge in after all the other stuff that's happening. So, what we want is crouch medium into more medium, and then probably a nitro charge while that goes on, so that the rhythm will change and it will come out if we want it. And we're probably not putting the ES nitro charge here, so as to shift what we get. We can probably try to get the V-trigger in here though. It's all a matter of how many buttons you can hit in the space of time required. that going to be enough? It has a chance to be enough. What we're mainly looking for here is stuff that happens when you're pushing pressure on him and he doesn't actually get the Abigail punch out. Or the combo, because if you don't get the Abigail punch out, he'll get better things in neutral because he will whiff. Did I turn on the wrong one? Yes, I did. The key here is that if he whiffs the crouching medium kick, you'll get more Abigail punch stuff. And yes, there's the nitro charge, and there's some charged heavy punches, so this is probably going to be enough. Unfortunately, it's also not quite good enough in that I ended up getting the nitro charge before I got the V-trigger input done. So now I have to make sure I reverse those for this to be correct. Which is odd because I normally don't do that way, but okay. That's completely weird. I must have changed a button I didn't mean to change. So, controller settings says that's why. Of course, you can always use that sort of trick when you actually want that to happen. But for now, I want it the other way around. And I need to hold that at the end for the full effect, so it's not too hard an input. So we should be okay with it. The key is that when he is not close enough to cancel the punch, other stuff will start to happen, and that's probably what we want, because we want him to be able to do nitro charge out of that. The key problem there is that somehow you have to end the recording in time, but since it's probably okay regardless, since you don't really care if he holds nitro charge until the end of a recording, it's all good. So we're going to count that as effective enough. The mashing at the end doesn't matter too much. 4 is on, we'll see what we get. And the question is whether or not he automatically does... He's automatically doing the overhead because of the medium kick, it looks like, and not specifically because he has no choice. So we can test that by turning on this one. And see what happens when 4 comes out in a particular way and goes into 1. Those who have watched the previous are fairly familiar with how this goes. So we're looking for action 4 into action 1 at some point, and we'll then be able to figure out whether or not it's working. That is a throw. Of course, it could depend on where he is, and if he's doing 4 into 4 and it causing that, it's equally good. Oh right, no, that's fine too, I think. Because I intended for the throw to be first there. It's 2 I wanted to use for that check, I think, then. Four into 4 as usual. I need some 4 into 2 information though. Come on, Abigail, help me out. That appears to be a punch and not a V-skill parry. I'll take it. Precisely because I can focus the rest of the nitro charge in there, and because the back heavy punch is the last thing I absolutely need, and the back heavy punch is quick enough that the nitro charge will act as if you did a backdash out of it because of the inputs. The specific way to make that sort of input is actually to not try too hard on getting it perfect. And then I can put the EX nitro charge at the end of this, and hope everything works out that way. And this is the one I can actually hold, so that helps. So we're going straight for a back heavy punch, and we're hoping that it doesn't actually come out perfectly. What I want beyond the back heavy punch... Well, I like the first version of this, where he actually does the V-trigger cancel sort of thing. In fact, I probably shouldn't have changed this much, if at all. I'm going to regret now that I've done anything else, because now I have to do it over. But, let's go for it. That's not triple. Still not triple, but I could just change that button again. So let's make that quick. And I need to change it to a button that I can hold easily, relatively easily. So you see me change it to an L input. And we get the last recording done. Was that what I wanted? It looks close to it. I planked the V trigger, so it might turn out a little messy, but it could probably do the main job. 4 or 5 for the sake of being sure. Alright, that gives me the sweep when he's in V trigger as intended. And it gives the EX Nitro. Seems to have a bit more trouble recreating the awesomeness of the bat dash out, but that wasn't specifically as intended, and I can probably squeeze that back in somewhere else. So let's see what the new version of him comes up with on his own, quote-unquote. He can definitely EX Giant Flip on his own. That makes his hitbox move a lot, which is why he's one of our cross-up characters. Did I miss that cancel? That's decent. Light kick is not going to be reproducible, but it's useful to have in our bot specifically. Is it possible for that to not go that way? Let's see what happens when I give some 4 and 1 only. No, 5 and 1 only. If I can get good stuff out of that. Definitely get a grab, that's for sure. Let's try something more useful. Probably stand medium punch is enough. We've got that in without much trouble. But he doesn't seem to be specifically... Aha! It does take more than one output to do it. So the key thing that's missing from him now is the ability to dash out of a nitro charge. And the question would obviously be, where can we fit that sort of thing without losing too much of him? Because the thing that has become clear to us is that in order to do nitro charge and roll back out of it, you have to be holding nitro charge at the time. The question is, can I therefore create a situation where he does hit nitro charge in a way that he's holding it, and then I pressed back in some way that will result in him doing specifically that. Well, let's see. The scenarios in which he can do one and not the other are not particularly obvious right now. I suppose I could try hiding something else in that sweep instead, but that sweep is pretty used right now. So let's go back to looking through our work a bit more slowly. Also, I'm pretty sure that the command grab is still in here, but you're not seeing it much, if at all. So there's that to consider. Which raises the question of whether or not I could put it in here in some way, but actually no, that could definitely work, because I can have the backdash hidden in the throw animation instead, and then do the whole thing. And I believe he has enough kicks around the place randomly that I could probably leave him without one specifically. I think I started something with a sweep, right? So, the final act is to fix number 3. That is not 3, but unfortunately, if I, as I've demonstrated before, if I do that and I don't record anything, 5 stays intact, so we're safe. So what I want now is a little bit more complicated. I want to throw, backdash, and then do a full quarter circle backward while holding throw for at least some part of that. And the backdash part is the part where it's going to feel a little weird. So do we have the backdash? We have the backdash. We have the jump. We have the command throw. We appear to be in business, even though the throw ended up planked. I don't think it's going to require a planked throw. And for the purposes of this, when it plays back into itself, the planked throw is no different from a jumping light kick. So, I believe we now have probably everything we care about. And the good backdash is in there. I think I missed that cancel. I'm very upset about this. It didn't look like I missed the cancel at the time. So I'm gonna go hit character save select purely to have all of that save, as you know. And for the next 10 to 12 minutes of the stream, I'll just be demonstrating, and we'll all be happy to see what actually pops out of here. One more run in the City in Chaos. Ryu versus Abigail. So this is our prototype. I'm going to consider it finished. It's not particularly hard to input if you're familiar with certain types of cancel. I'm concerned about some of the leniency of certain things, given that even when it looks like I've got it right, it's not working fully. But let's go with all inputs on, and presuming everything's in the correct space, we now see what we can get Abigail to do. So he's currently in V-trigger. He's not specifically stronger than usual because I don't really do a lot of button holding. That is an OTG. That is a powerful OTG. Okay then. No one mentioned this before. So yeah, don't stay on the ground against Abigail unless you expect that you'll be okay getting away somehow from the ES Giant Flip. It's probably not going to be used too much in actual matches, but he definitely could finish you off with it. So he has auto Oki on all situations. That definitely didn't look like it cancelled as I expected it to. So we're gonna see if I can change some of his rhythm by parrying stuff. We definitely got that in there. Parries don't interact with each other, fortunately. We're seeing that acting as it should too. He's not a character who's hard to attack head-on though. Which is strange because when I want to attack him head-on, he stops doing all that. But we're gonna have to hope. Also, he's slow enough at doing that that I probably can't get away from this because the duration of his parry seems to be quite low. Let's see, what else can I use that's more useful here? To give him time to do stuff about it. There we go. So he stands, a Tatsu, and we'll see a couple Tatsus until he starts to parry something. A good part of this is his reach. Haven't seen any sign of his EX command grab yet, but I don't think I gave a specific spacing or timing where that should happen, and it's possible that the interaction isn't possible directly. Let's try these two together and see what we get. It just could be that 2-3 don't really interact much. I didn't want the heavy punch in there. Oh well. Wait, that's not the one with the sweep in it. Is this the one with the sweep in it? Oh sure, I did a sweep and hit things in sweep. I guess I'll have to look out for that more. It's not you, is it? No, that's a medium. The problem with my medium is that it's not quite instant enough, but it is enough to get the command grab occasionally. Plus he seems to backdash before it, which is good for the purpose of the bot as we have it now. So overall, performing as intended. Just don't know where that other sweep went. Alright, the good thing about bots like this is that even if they don't do everything you want them to do often enough, you can tweak how often they do things a lot more easily than you can tweak the specifics of the things they're doing. So if he only occasionally does certain things, you just learn to live with it. But I don't think we're going to get the bat dash reverse unless I come up with something really interesting. That's partially because I didn't hold the Nitro Charge kick at the end of the one I did do that way. So I would have to find a way to change one of these inputs to become holding Nitro Charge rather than anything else I was doing. However, since they all end with something that gives him an ability somewhere, it's a bit harder to fit this in, and I may not bother. It's relatively lower priority compared to most things he can do. I'm just sad that I had it before and now probably don't have it anymore. Maybe I'll make a little more effort to finish that one correctly. So action playback, let's check on that. I believe it was option 4. And I needed to fix action 4 anyway, so sure, let's go with it. Medium kick into medium punch is supposed to combo, but it doesn't. Does it combo from further away? Oh, it's probably only combos on counter hit. And I need to do the light to make it definitely work. Alright. That is probably fine, actually. So let's go with instant crouch medium into light, into the trigger, into nitro charge. And the problem with that is that I have to end the recording while holding the nitro charge, which is relatively difficult. You could change around some buttons, but it still would end up being difficult for most people to do. Still, I'm willing to give it a shot. That's a bit far. And that did not end up turning out to be what I wanted. So, one more. No, I can see how to do it, but the plink is basically beyond me at this point. I probably should do medium kick again. Yes. That does not appear to be right either. But I almost got something. That'll work better. But it still looks like it's a little off. When you're in these situations with bots, however, you're much better off testing the thing you have than forcing yourself on the work to make sure that it's one way or another. So the question is, if I hit you in certain ways, do I get nitro charge at all? I get nitro charge, and I can't tell easily if the button that the nitro charge is using is what starts off this, but we check for the magic. So our last confirmation here is to see if we can get regular nitro charge into its back row. Corresponding to regular nitro charge is in itself difficult, so. Mainly because he spends too much time in the recovery of motions for 5. Alright, either way, we're probably going to have to give that... Oh, no, I see the problem. It's the exact thing I was mentioning before. It turns out that, according to this, I actually did the back heavy punch too well, and that results in it being complicated. So... that's not what I wanted to do. And I believe I had a triple punch in here somewhere already. Probably a forward one. Which means we are back to the final minutes of stream and AbigailBot's full power. So your goal here is, as I said, to land the cross-up when up against an opponent who is not going to stand still enough to let you cross him up, and who is so wide that you have to measure your cross-up distance differently. And who consistently seems to move his hurt bots out of the way of anything you want to do cross-up wise. While having to deal with pretty much everything else he does. Fortunately, he doesn't have that many options, and our bigger issue is more so that it's easy to stop Nitro Charge from happening, and I should probably look for a better way to get that in, but beyond that, he seems pretty well set. Oh, I see what happened. I got rid of my own Nitro Charge. That might be a little bit better. Probably not the best, but a little bit better. Then end up giving him ES command grab instead. Looks that way. Wow. Didn't I set a button for this? I probably set a button for this. Yes, I did. So let's finish this out with proper motion. How did I get there now? No, wait, that might make sense. But still not what I want. Okay. And that has given the EX Nitro Charge its biggest possibility. Of course, there's also the possibility that I still manage to somehow get the initial heavy punch to be perfect, which is totally not what I want, but quick check on that. I see no regular heavy punches, which means I totally messed this up somewhere. Also, that combos. That is interesting to know. So that's option one. But it doesn't appear to be able to combo back into itself as a back roll out of it, presumably because once again he does have to be holding that for too much longer than initially intended. But I think I specifically made one of the others to be able to do this, which would be the throw. So now, can I get a back roll, Abigail? Looks like I don't. The question becomes, why don't I?
I'm actually told the hits of EX Giant Flip itself are -2.
Hmm.
You can interrupt, obviously, if he mashes it, but if he just hits you once, nope.
Alright, interesting. Okay, so I'm going to need to check this one out. Oh, no, obviously it's not an issue because it wouldn't do that for the EX one in the first place. Fine. Should have thought of that before I went and did it over my good recording. That does not have a jump in it. That has too much of a jump in it. That actually could be good the way it is. Possibly. If he jumps more, I can't really complain that much. But what I wanted actually was the two of you to interact to give me my potential Nitro Charge behaviors. Finding the right timing for his regular Nitro Charge is probably the issue. But, as I said, we'll clean that up later. So here's our AbigailBot for now. Monster Truck Mode, a la extraordinaire. As always, if this wasn't clear enough as to what exactly the inputs ended up being, feel free to send us email at the contact you'll get if you go to our website 2-mk.org to request the current version. And whatever updates we do with other streams potentially during the week later, any from Amara, you'll definitely be seeing AbigailBot. Not sure who else will end up having him, but one way or another, if you see anything or we mention any changes that have been made, until the bot is officially released, you can count on us to answer your emails with any questions about the current inputs. So with that said, this is Rillian, and that has been our robotics lab for the night.